Okay, I want to just start by saying and giving all praise to Yahweh, all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shai. And we're gonna go into this topic, which is again, what is witchcraft and how do we identify it? And I'm gonna get it started by we're gonna pull out the first scripture, will be Deuteronomy chapter 18, verses 9 through 12.
Hey, Salaki, can you call it one more time?
Deuteronomy chapter 18, verses 9 through 12.
Okay. It's the book of Deuteronomy chapter 18, starting at verse 9. When thou art come into the land which Yahweh thy power giveth thee, thou shalt not learn to do after the abominations of those nations. There shall not be found among you anyone that maketh his son or his daughter to pass through the fire, or that useth divination, or an observer of times, or an enchanter, or a witch, or a charmer, or a consulter with familiar spirits, or a wizard, or a necromancer. For all that do these things are an abomination unto Yahweh, and because these abominations the Lord thy God doth drive them out from before thee.
Con. So verse 9 says, when we go into a land that's not our own, pretty much there's going to be other people there that practice these things and they're abominations to the Father. So we know that these weren't things that we originally did, because that wasn't our culture. We know that our culture comes from the law, statutes, and commandments that the Most High gave us to keep. And he also said, hey, don't do these things. So verse 10 says, there shall not be found among you anyone that maketh his son or his daughter to pass through fire, or that uses divination, or an observer of times, or an enchanter, or a witch, or a charmer, or a consulter with familiar spirits, or a wizard, or necromancer, verse 11. So what we're dealing with today is witchcraft and how to identify it. But we also know that divination goes hand in hand with witchcraft, which we're not going to get too much into divination today, because that's a whole nother topic and a whole nother lesson. And there's a lot that can be brought out, because with divination, we know that's tarot card reading, that's fortune telling, that's horoscopes, and a lot of other things that they do that we're not supposed to engage in and involve ourselves in. So, verse 12 tells us simply again, for all that do these things are an abomination unto the Lord. And because of these abominations, the Lord thy God doth drive them out from before thee. So people that's doing these type of things have no favor with God. He's not pleased with them. And they can't seek his face, because these things are hindering them from actually being able to. So what we're going to do now is go to Galatians chapter 5. And brother, read verses 19 through 21.
It's the book of Galatians chapter 5, starting at verse 19. Now the works of the flesh are manifest, which are these: adultery, fornication, uncleanness, lasciviousness, idolatry, witchcraft, hatred, variance, emulations, wrath, strife, seditions, heresies, envies, murders, drunkenness, revelings, and such like, of the which I tell you before, as I have also told you in time past, that they which do such things shall not inherit the kingdom of God.
So something that we can pay very close attention to is when you see witchcraft, something like witchcraft, and the things that come along with it. These things stem from idolatry, because our God does not teach us to practice witchcraft. But the gods of the other nations, for them, it's normal. That's something that they engage in, indulge in. And if we decide to partake in those things, now we have took to ourselves an idol for a God and not the Most High Yahweh, because those aren't His ways. So people that do engage in witchcraft and these other things, they're pretty much being an idolater at the same time. So it's double sin. But brother, if you could grab witchcraft, the definition for witchcraft in the Greek.
Con. The definition, the word for witchcraft is G5331, pharmakia, outline biblical usage, the use or administering of drugs, poisoning, sorcery, magical arts, etc. And then the definition, medication, an example by extension, magic, and then sorcery, witchcraft.
Con. And so something that we could pay close attention to would be the fourth outline of biblical usage. It says metaphor, a metaphor for the deceptions and seductions of idolatry. So just like I just expressed, that when you do engage in these things, you're engaging in these because of the deceptions and seductions of idolatry, because this is what they teach. So deception could also be considered as witchcraft, and seduction could be considered as witchcraft whenever it's used in a way that can seduce someone or deceive someone to believe something that's contrary to what's true. So, brother, if you could grab craft just in the English definition for craft.
Con. This is craft out of the Oxford Dictionary. It says, an activity involving skill in making things by hand.
God. And then the second definition, skill used in deceiving others. So this would be the definition more fitting for witchcraft, because a witch crafts things or creates something to deceive people. We know that it's also called magic or sorcery. So all of these things go hand in hand. So this is actually how we identify someone that's practicing witchcraft. If they can do something that can deceive you into believing something that's a lie, that's witchcraft. Brother, if you could, we'll go ahead and read this first article. And so this first article that Brother Aaron's about to read, it's an article. They did an interview with a witch. They talked to a witch about witchcraft. And she's going to say some interesting things about makeup, magic, and witchcraft.
So this is, we talk to witches about the connection between makeup and magic. In 1770, a law was allegedly passed by British Parliament condemning lipstick due to an association with witchcraft. The law stated that women who seduced men into marriage through the use of cosmetics could be found guilty of sorcery. While this has been referenced in many books and articles over the years, there is no actual evidence of the law even being proposed, especially because the witchcraft law of 1735, which prevented people from accusing others of witchcraft, would negate it. Still, some people who are anti-makeup might argue that wearing it is an act of deception and even sorcery. And truth be told, they're not far off. Makeup, especially with today's technological advances and talented artists, can be used as a tool not only capable of transforming a person's appearance, but changing their mood while inspiring feelings of power and confidence. If that doesn't sound like an occult spell, what does? To further this notion, we can turn to the origin of the word glamour, which means magic, enchantment, or witchery. If you've seen The Craft, you might recall the scene in which Sarah, Robin Tooney, transforms from a redhead into a blonde in the blink of an eye, and with obvious late 90s CGI. Or with obvious, Slakia. While glamour spells, or spells associated with beauty, are performed by many modern-day witches, magic, unfortunately, doesn't work in that same sensational Hollywood-esque way. Can you imagine? No more hours spent at the salon trying to go from dark hair to platinum? Sign me up. Depending on the witch and her practice, beauty spells and magical treatments can range from the aforementioned glamour spells to drawing a sigil or magic symbol in your eyeshadow palette, to a kitchen witch whipping up a bath scrub using essential oils and herbs to celebrate the new moon. That last one doesn't sound too different from a spa day. Am I right? And that seems to be it.
And so, something that's interesting, like we see that even witches, they observe the new moon the same way we do, but they observe it in a wicked way. And, there's a trend that everything that's good is always changed into something wicked or evil. Witches do rituals on the new moon. They do rituals on the full moon also. And, it's like they mock our God with what they do. But I think Brother Devon, he probably put some pics in the chat. I'm not looking at it because I'm doing a screen recording. But some pictures of people actually changing their entire persona or looking like a completely different person from using makeup. When you use makeup in that way, that's borderline witchcraft. It's pretty much witchcraft. That's not saying that it's something wrong with using makeup. It's just something wrong when you're using makeup to actually deceive people into believing you look like somebody you don't look like. Now you look like a completely different person, and that's deception. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and examine Jezebel and the accounts of Jezebel and how she used witchcraft. Brother, if you could grab 1 Kings chapter 16 and verses 30 through 33.
It's the book of 1 Kings, chapter 16, starting at verse 30. And Ahab, the son of Omri, did evil in the sight of Yahweh above all that were before him. And it came to pass, as if it had been a light thing for him to walk in the sins of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, that he took to wife Jezebel, the daughter of Ethbaal, king of the Zidonians, and went and served Baal and worshipped him. And he reared up an altar for Baal in the house of Baal, which he had built in Samaria. And Ahab made a grove, and Ahab did more to provoke Yahweh, God of Israel, to anger than all the kings of Israel that were before him.
So we see by logical deduction that Jezebel served Baal, and she was able to trick this king into doing the same. And brother, if you could read verse 29.
This is the book of 1 Kings, chapter 16, verse 29. And in the 38th year of Asa, king of Judah, began Ahab, the son of Omri, to reign over Israel. And Ahab, the son of Omri, reigned over Israel in Samaria 22 years.
So we see that this brother, this king, was a brother from the tribe of Judah. So he took this wife, Jezebel, and she turned his heart away from Yahweh. And this is something that we were warned about in Deuteronomy chapter 18, verses 9 through 12 that we read earlier. And he told us not to go into these lands and do what these heathen nations were doing. And this brother just made that big mistake, and she turned his heart away. Brother, if you could grab 1 Kings chapter 18, verses 13 through 18.
You said 18:13 through what?
Through 18.
Okay. This is the book of 1 Kings chapter 18, starting at verse 13. Was it not told, my Lord, what I did when Jezebel slew the prophets of Yahweh, how I hid 100 men of Yahweh's prophets by 50 in a cave, and fed them with bread and water? And now thou sayest, Go tell thy Lord, behold, Elijah is here, and he shall slay me. And Elijah said, As Yahweh of hosts liveth, before whom I stand, I will surely show myself unto him today. So Obadiah went to meet Ahab, and told him, and Ahab went to meet Elijah. And it came to pass, when Ahab saw Elijah, that Ahab said unto him, Art thou he that troubleth Israel? And he answered, I have not troubled Israel, but thou and thy father's house, in that ye have forsaken the commandments of Yahweh, and then hast followed Balaam.
And so we see right here that Jezebel slayed the prophets. And her reasoning would have to be, because these were prophets, to try and stop those prophets from prophesying to the other Israelites to bring them back to the laws. So we see where, some of the prophets had been hidden to try and protect them and keep them safe from this actually happening to them as it did the other prophets. So, brother, grab Revelation 18, verses 20 through 24.
Okay, can you give the verse one more time? I heard Revelation 18.
20 through 24.
20 through 24. Con. It's the book of Revelation, chapter 18, starting at verse 20. Rejoice over her, thou heaven, and ye holy apostles and prophets, for God hath avenged you on her. And a mighty angel took up a stone like a great millstone, and cast it into the sea, saying, Thus with violence shall that great city Babylon be thrown down, and shall be found no more at all. Verse 22. And the voice of harpers and musicians, and of pipers and trumpeters shall be heard no more at all in thee, and no craftsman of whatsoever craft he be shall be found any more in thee, and the sound of a millstone shall be heard no more at all in thee, and the light of a candle shall shine no more at all in thee, and the voice of the bridegroom and of the bride shall be heard no more at all in thee. For thy merchants were the great men of the earth, for by thy sorceries were all nations deceived. And in her was found the blood of the blood of prophets, and of saints, and of all that were slain upon the earth.
So we know this passage is talking about America, the fall of Babylon. and how they're going to be repaid for what they've done. But pay attention to verse 23. It says, "And the light of a candle shall shine no more at all in thee, and the voice of the bridegroom and of the bride shall be heard no more at all in thee. For thy merchants were the great men of the earth, for by thy sorceries were all nations deceived." So we see sorcery, which again is associated with witches or wizards. And we see that deception and sorceries go hand in hand. Sorceries would also be witchcraft. So we know and understand what was done to trick us and to make us believe a lie. They gave us a white Jesus. They said his name was Jesus when we know that's not his name, because the letter J was created in the year 1524. And they gave us all of these lies, and they gave us all of these religions to deceive us with their sorcery. So that was a witchcraft also that was done to us. And it's so subtle that we still have our people today that still don't get it. They don't understand that they have been witchcraft, and sorcery has been used on them, magic, because it's nothing short of magic to convince a complete people of God that you ain't nothing, you ain't nobody, and everybody else equal to you, and you caping for it, and you harping on it, saying, yeah, if we equal, everybody, God love everybody. That's some sorcery. But we're gonna continue going on, brother. Go back to 1 Kings, and we're gonna go to chapter 21, verses 1 through 16, because we're still getting this account from Jezebel, and we're gonna see some more things that she did. And this was a wicked woman.
You said chapter 21?
Verses 1 through 16.
It's the book of 1 Kings, chapter 16, chapter 21, starting at verse 16.
Verse 1 through 16.
Once,
you said it right. You said it wrong, but you was at the right place.
Verse 1. And it came to pass after these things that Naboth the Jezreelite had a vineyard which was in Jezreel, hard by the palace of Ahab, king of Samaria. And Ahab spake unto Naboth, saying, Give me thy vineyard, that I may have it for a garden of herbs, because it is near unto my house, and I will give thee for it a better vineyard than it. Or if it seem good to thee, I will give thee the worth of it in money. And Naboth said to Ahab, Yahweh forbid me, that I should give the inheritance of my fathers unto thee. And Ahab came into his house heavy and displeased, because of the word which Naboth the Jezreelite had spoken to him. For he had said, I will not give thee the inheritance of my fathers. And he laid him down upon his bed, and turned away his face, and would eat no bread. But Jezebel his wife came to him, and said unto him, Why is thy spirit so sad, that thou eatest no bread? And he said unto her, Because I spake unto Naboth the Jezreelite, and said unto him, Give me thy vineyard for money, or else, if it please thee, I will give thee another vineyard for it. And he answered, I will not give thee my vineyard. And Jezebel his wife said unto him, Dost thou now govern the kingdom of Israel? Arise and eat bread, and let thine heart be merry. I will give thee the vineyard of Naboth the Jezreelite. So she wrote letters in Ahab's name, and sealed them with his seal, and sent the letters unto the elders and to the nobles that were in his city, dwelling with Naboth. And she wrote in the letters, saying, Proclaim a fast, and set Naboth on high among the people, and set 2 men sons of Belial, before him, to bear witness against him, saying, Thou didst blaspheme God and the king, and then carry him out and stone him, that he may die. And the men of his city, even the elders and the nobles, who were the inhabitants of his city, did as Jezebel had sent unto them, and as it was written in the letters which she had sent unto them. They proclaimed a fast, and set Naboth on high among the people. And there came in 2 men, children of Belial, and set before him. And the men of Belial witnessed against him, even against Naboth, in the presence of the people, saying, Naboth did blaspheme God and the king. Then they carried him forth out of the city, and stoned him with stones, that he died. Then they sent to Jezebel, saying, Naboth is stoned, and is dead. And it came to pass, when Jezebel heard that Naboth was stoned, and was dead, that Jezebel said to Ahab, Arise, take possession of the vineyard of Naboth, the Jezreelite, which he refused to give thee for money, for Naboth is not alive, but dead. And it came to pass, when Ahab heard that Naboth was dead, that Ahab rose up to go down to the vineyard of Naboth the Jezreelite, to take possession of it.
God. So we see another example of some witchcraft, because this was deception at its finest. This woman wrote letters in Ahab's name, and she lied, and she got Naboth killed so that Ahab could take possession of his vineyard. And this reminds me of what was done to us, how we got took out of our land. And now there are Jewish people in our land claiming to be us after we are spiritually dead right here in Babylon. This is pure deception, and it's sorcery, and it's witchcraft. And we have to be able to identify it and see it for what it is. Trickery, deception is witchcraft at the end of the day. Brother, if you could grab me 2 Kings chapter 9, verses 30 through 33.
It's the book of 2 Kings, chapter 9, verse 30. And when Jehu was come to Jezreel, Jezebel heard of it, and she painted her face, and tied her head, and looked out at a window. And as Jehu entered in at the gate, she said, Had Zamri peace? Who slew his master? And he lifted up his face to the widow, and said, Who is on my side? Who? And there looked out to him 2 or 3 eunuchs. And he said, Throw her down. So they threw her down, and some of her blood was sprinkled on the wall and on the horses, and he trode her underfoot.
Con. And so verse 30 says, And when Jehu was come to Jezreel, Jezebel heard of it, and she painted her face, and tied her head, and looked out at a window. So she looked out, trying to seduce this man that was coming to kill her for her sins against the Father when she killed the prophets. So she tried her best to seduce him and use some deception to trick him into not killing her. But he definitely didn't fall for it. But it was an attempt at seduction. But, this is just another example of how someone can use these different motives, use these different things, and try to carry through with their motives to seduce you or deceive you into doing something that you shouldn't do. Brother, if you could grab Revelation 2, verses 20 through 23.
It's the book of Revelation, chapter 20. It's like chapter 2, verse 20. Notwithstanding, I have a few things against thee, because thou sufferest that woman Jezebel, which calleth herself a prophet, to teach and to seduce my servants to commit fornication, and to eat things sacrificed unto idols. And I gave her space to repent of her fornication, and she repented not. Behold, I will cast her into a bed, and them that commit adultery with her into great tribulation, except they repent of their deeds.
23 also.
Verse 23. And I will kill her children with death, and all the churches shall know that I am he which searcheth the reins and hearts, and I will give unto every one of you according to your works.
So verse 20 says, notwithstanding, I have a few things against thee, because thou sufferest that woman Jezebel, which calleth herself a prophetess, to teach and to seduce my servants to commit fornication, and to eat things sacrificed unto idols. So we know what the literal Jezebel did in the accounts. We just read about that. But this is also talking about a spiritual Jezebel, which would mean these would be false teachings that if we ate from, we would become an abomination to the Most High, and we would commit fornication because we would be in idolatry. So verse 22 says, behold, I will cast her into a bed, and them that commit adultery with her into great tribulation, except they repent of their deeds. So we see Yahweh allowed us to be tempted with this idolatry, but he also allows the truth to be revealed and give us a possibility and give us an option to repent. So these things all were done not according to anything else except for Yahweh's will. He allows certain stuff to happen just to be able to show his strength and to show his might and his wisdom. So, these things that we read about in the scriptures, no matter how they may seem, when reading them, they all happen for a reason. They were predestined for them to happen that way, because like even right there it says, behold, I will cast her into a bed. When he says I will cast her into a bed, she made her available to us. She made false doctrines available to us, just so he could also come back and give us a choice to choose the Most High Yahweh and come back to these laws, statutes, and commandments. Brother, if you could grab that second article, and this is a personal article about pretty much this witch speaking out about how she was deceived by witchcraft.
It says, I was spiritually deceived by witchcraft. Salah Ali Tower is a recovering witch living in New Jersey. The former practitioner of the dark arts once thought she had it all, and then some. On an average day, she'd cast spells designed to make her richer, stronger, fiercer than her Hasfro neighbors. She wore flowing broomstick skirts and dramatic capes, read tarot cards, and burned incense, and had sex with a guy not her husband. It makes one wonder about the evil lurking in the suburbs. Looking at Tower, who goes by Ali, her middle name, one would never suspect this ordinary state worker once thought she owned the keys to an existence in which most anything she desired was there for the taking. The religion of Wicca took hold of me. It opened a portal into a new world, the 58-year-old mother of 3 grown children and grandmother of 2 told me. Casting spells, I saw results. Usually, it was like maybe I needed money or I needed a car. I needed love in my life. It was very selfish. It was all about what I wanted. I was really satisfied with my life. So why give it up? Could it have something to do with Satan? Witchcraft is practiced by a growing number of lapsed Christians seeking easy gratification for life's most pressing needs: sex, hot clothes, relief from rotten marriages. The Christian Post reported in 2013 that multiple conservative scholars have concluded that there were more than 200,000 people who have declared themselves witches in the United States, and as many as 8 million undeclared practitioners of the craft. This makes sorcery the second fastest growing religion in the U.S. after Islam, and the number of witches reportedly doubles every 30 months. As Halloween rolls around faster than a Wiccan flying on a broomstick, it's time to take a look at a faith that's seducing untold numbers of women and men. Tower, who was raised in Episcopalian, turned to witchcraft in 1989 after she enrolled in a correspondence course in witchery. She joined a coven operating under the radar in the Garden State. She had a husband at the time, but told me the marriage was a horror show and the couple slept separately. Well, the occult had an answer for that. I went outside one night, she said, underneath the biggest, brightest full moon I've ever seen. I caught on the goddess, felt the energy flowing through me. My kids asked why my face was glowing. Coven members were pushed by high priests and high priestesses to divorce spouses who were not in the craft and urged them to fool around with fellow witches. It was kind of like a 70s free sexual thing, she said. Tower started a long-term extramarital affair with a man who was not a witch. I did not believe that I was worshiping Satan, she said, but now I realize I was deceived. I believe it was the spiritual deception the devil uses to defeat people. It all came crashing down after Tower was kicked out of the non-denominational church of which she had been a member. She got so angry, she put a vanishing spell on the pastor, who had been like a father to her. A month later, she learned that her spell seemed to have worked. The pastor was retiring and moving out of state. Surprisingly, the man invited Tower back into the church. There, she was told, "You can't run from God," and she started sobbing hysterically. In 2000, Tower returned to Christianity, changing her clothes from hot to dowdy. She divorced her husband and broke up with her lover, and she couldn't be happier. Under the name S.A. Tower, she has authored 2 books about her spiritual journey. 2012's Taken from the Night, a witch encounter with God, and From the Craft to Christ, the allure of witchcraft and the church's response, both from Dwell Publishing. Halloween is known to Wiccans as the end of harvest Gaelic festival of Samhain, pronounced Samhain, a time when Tower said the veils between the living and the dead are the thinnest. but she sees nothing wrong with kids dressing up in costumes and trick or treating. We have to be careful in our choice of costume, she advised. Is it possible, as Tower evidently believes, to commune with spirits and change one's circumstances with mumbo jumbo? Could she be used as a potent recruiting tool for the devil? I hope not. You don't have to believe in the power of witchcraft to know that anything that comes too easily isn't worth your soul. In these days of international terrorism and domestic moral relativism, people of all faiths need more God and less temptation. Allie Tower found her way back to Christianity, a wise path. Happy Halloween.
That's it. And we definitely don't agree with that last line. But yeah, so we see that this lady was involved in witchcraft, and she actually saw some results from the witchcraft because Satan can make things happen too, because Satan is a god. Just like we read how they serve Baal. That's a false god also. And there are different things that come with these serving these false gods. And just like Satan is in charge of witchcraft, Satan is in charge of anything that's not from Yahweh. So we have our culture that's in the Levitical laws. The first 5 of the books tell us how we should live according to what Yahweh says is the right thing to do. Anything else in this world that goes outside of that is going to be something from another culture and another god. So I'm going to give an example, and you just think about it in your head. Cosmetic surgery. When someone alters their face, get a nose job, lips, get their lips injected, BBLs, when they they look like they got something that they didn't have. When you getting makeup done, and they say the females say, "Oh, she beat her face to the gods." When they alter they face to the point like you're like that don't look like the same person. Those things are definitely sorcery. It's trickery. It's deception, because that ain't you. Where did that come from? Because Yahweh didn't give you that. You're someone else right now. So, brother, grab Leviticus 19 and 31.
It's the book of Leviticus 19 and 31. Regard not them that have familiar spirits, neither seek after wizards to be defiled by them. I am the Lord your God.
So this ain't just talking about the witches. This talking about the people that go to the witches and the fortune tellers and these surgeons, because you're going to go be defiled by those people, because they're about to perform some sorcery and some witchcraft on you so that you can deceive somebody. And that's not what we're commanded to do. We're commanded to abstain from doing these things. Brother, grab Zechariah chapter 8, verse 16.
It's the book of Zechariah chapter 8, verse 16. These are the things that ye shall do. Speak ye every man the truth to his neighbor. Execute the judgment of truth, and peace in your gates.
And we know truth and deception are the complete opposite of each other. Deception ain't truth. So involving in some type of witchcraft is always going to be involving yourself in some type of deception. So we got to always make sure we're not deceiving anybody in anything that we do, because we could be guilty of being involved in some type of sorcery or witchcraft. Brother, grab 2 Corinthians chapter 11, verses 13 and 14.
Can I grab a precept before?
Con.
Just to add on to the point. This is the book of Leviticus 19 and 11. It says, "Ye shall not steal, neither deal falsely, neither lie one to another." And that also goes into, using deception, especially with our own people. Just to add on to what you said.
Con, the water.
Con. It's the book of 2 Corinthians 11.
Con, 13 and 14.
Con. It's the book of 2 Corinthians chapter 11, starting at verse 13. For such are false apostles, deceitful workers, transforming themselves into the apostles of Yahushua. And no marvel, for Satan himself is transformed into an angel of light.
So it's no surprise that there are people that won't teach you that something as simple as being a deceitful person and not dealing honestly with people is witchcraft. But it's no marvel, because it says, for Satan has transformed himself into an angel of light. We know that because we know that those devils in the land ain't the people, but they sure have fooled a whole lot of people. So it's no surprise that something as subtle as deception in the ways that it's been used is witchcraft, because we've been being deceived for so long, and there's nothing short of them performing witchcraft. Brother Graf, 1 Samuel 15, verses 22 through 26.
It's the book of 1 Samuel chapter 15, starting at verse 22. And Samuel said, "Hath Yahweh as great delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices, as in obeying the voice of Yahweh? Behold, to obey is better than sacrifice, and to hearken than the fat of rams. For rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft, and stubbornness is as iniquity and idolatry. Because thou hast rejected the word of Yahweh, he hath also rejected thee from being king." And Saul said unto Samuel, "I have sinned, for I have transgressed the commandment of the Most High, in thy words, because I feared the people and obeyed their voice. Now therefore, I pray thee, pardon my sin, and turn again with me, that I may worship Yahweh." And Samuel said unto Saul, "I will not return with thee, for thou hast rejected the word of Yahweh, and the Most High hath rejected thee from being king over Israel."
Time. And so the main point that I want us to focus on is verse 23. It says, "For rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft." And we know that, the rebellion that we have committed as a nation of people, it has caused us to be in the situations that we're in today. So to say that witchcraft is just as bad, that's strong, because that means just being deceptive to our people is just as bad as rebelling against the laws, statutes, and commandments that God has given us. So we gotta be, our best version of ourselves, and deal honestly with our people, because that's looked at just as bad as just not wearing your fringes, eating the wrong foods, wearing mixed fabrics, killing somebody. Is looked at exactly as the same as those things. So that's something we just need to be aware of and deal accordingly. Brother, I'm going to grab one more scripture. That's Revelation 22, verses 14 and 15.
It's the book of Revelation, chapter 22, starting at verse 14. Blessed are they that do his commandments, that they may have right to the tree of life, and may enter in through the gates into the city. For without are dogs, and sorcerers, and whoremongers, and murderers, and idolaters, and whosoever loveth and maketh a lie.
So without are dogs. We know that a dog is someone that's considered a heathen, but a dog can also be our people if we choose to not follow the laws and statutes, commandments of God. So a sorcerer, a whoremonger, murderer, idolaters, and whosoever loveth and maketh a lie. All these things go hand in hand, and it all falls under being an idolater, worshiping other gods, because our God didn't teach us to do any of these things. And I think I'll end it right there. If any other brothers got any precepts, you can bring them out.
Yeah, I had a precept I wanted to bring real quick, if you don't mind. But beautiful lesson, brother. But Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 12, verse 3 and 4. You'll grab it.
You said chapter 12?
I read it up. Yeah, 12, 3 and 4.
It's the book of Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 12, starting at verse 3. For it was thy will to destroy by the hands of our fathers both those old inhabitants of thy holy land, whom thou hatest for doing most odious works of witchcrafts and wicked sacrifices.
Yeah, And so those people that was up in the land before we got there, they were destroyed or they was kicked out the land just because of that wickedness that the brother was illustrating, the witchcraft. It's various ways they were doing that. It's various different ways. Like as we read the accounts of it's various different ways that they were performing those acts. And so I got another precept, but I'll let one of y'all brothers pick it up.
Anybody else got a precept?
I had some, and it's going into Exodus chapter 7, and I'm gonna start at verse 7, because we know that there was stuff going on when the Lord had put all the plagues on Pharaoh, and it was people that was out there that was sorcerers and all that stuff. And I'm starting at verse 7. And Moses was 80 years old, and Aaron 83 years old, when they spake unto Pharaoh. And the Lord spake unto Moses and unto Aaron, saying, when Pharaoh shall speak unto you, saying, show a miracle for you, then thou shalt say unto Aaron, take thy rod and cast it before Pharaoh, and there shall become a serpent. And Moses and Aaron went in unto Pharaoh, and they did so as the Lord had commanded. And Aaron cast down his rod before Pharaoh and before his servants, and it became a serpent. Then Pharaoh also called the wise man and the sorcerers. Now the magicians of Egypt, they also did in like manner with their enchantments. So they used sorcery, and they did all this stuff, but they couldn't do all the other stuff that the Lord did when he plagued Egypt. But they was able to do some things, but they weren't able to do everything that the Lord was able to do. They are able to use enchantments and stuff when it comes to this doing all magician and all that crazy crap and stuff. Yeah.
If you'll go to Job chapter 12, verse 16.
Job chapter 12 and verse 16.
God.
With him is strength and wisdom. The deceived and the deceiver are his.
God. And so that's one thing for sure. Whenever we see people doing these various things, we got to understand that the Most High is the one that's in control, just like how he was in the days of Exodus. He's in control. He's the one that's giving them the ability to do these certain things. And so it's not to say you can't go to a tarot card reader, or you can't go to a so-called fortune teller, and she won't tell you, or he won't tell you something that actually happens. But you got to understand completely that those people are in the hands of Yahweh. Period. No matter what path they on.
God.
Con. And those are spiritual things, and there's not we're not gonna sit there and be fooled and act like the spiritual realm, it stops at Yahweh. We know that there are wicked spirits, so people can probably be tapping into some spiritual things and tell you some stuff. But what spirit are they operating in? And just like the brother said, Yahweh allows them to do certain things. He wants us to be put in situations where we got to make a choice. Are we going to choose this day to follow Yahweh and not to follow the other gods and to follow men? That's the choice. It's always going to be laid out there for us. He wants us to choose. He don't want it to just be easy where you don't have to make a choice where, oh, here you go. You just serve Yahweh. No other options. Nah, he wants us to show that we love him. And that's the only way we can show him. So yeah, that deception gonna look beautiful. It's gonna look like, dang, this might be true. It's people today. I know a lot of people that delve into spirituality and they get into these type of things. I know some females that are well known. They profess to be witches in my hometown.
Yeah, kind of. That's 100%. Like, for instance, the news. The news, they'll say, hey, everything's fine. They'll give you all this good news. And then, in actuality, it's a lot of stuff that's going around you. But I got a precept up on that. It's a lot of stuff that's going around you. Let's go to Jeremiah chapter 4, verse 10.
Con, I got a precept after you.
Con, you got it.
You want me to hit yours first or hit mine?
Yeah, you just hit this 14 and you got it.
Con. It's the book of Jeremiah chapter 4 and verse 10. It says, Then said I, Lord Yahweh, surely thou hast greatly deceived this people in Jerusalem, saying, Ye shall have peace, whereas the sword reacheth unto the soul.
God. And so that right there is a simple thing. It's all those things come from the Most High. It came from the prophets. The prophets were the ones that were saying, hey, you're going to have peace when war was coming. He got the prophets to go and tell them that. So everything gets contributed back to the Most High. But he deceived them to go and tell the people, hey, it's no war coming. Everything's going to be good. Everything's going to be fine. Hey, next thing you know, we might get another stimulus. They're going to hit you with another check. Everything's going to be good. You're going to be able to get back on your feet. But yeah, you got it, brother.
Con. Yeah, just to kind of speak to some the brother said earlier, speaking about how we would rather receive the falsehoods and the deception and things of that sort. It's the book of Isaiah chapter 30, and I'm going to start at verse 9. And it says that this is a rebellious people, lying children that will not hear the law of Yahweh, which say to the seers, see not, and to the prophets, prophesy not unto us right things, speak unto us smooth things, prophesy deceits. So I also apply this to us now, because a lot of times we would actually rather, the deceit, versus, was the truth, and that's obviously the law, statutes, and commandments, teachings of Yahweh Shai. As a matter of fact, I seen a post today where it was this preacher. He was saying he was speaking about like horoscopes and stuff like that, and he was saying, that's basically that's wicked to deal with horoscopes and stuff like that. And you just go in the comments, and I would bet money that a lot of that half of these people were like professing Christians, but they were all saying, anyway, my horoscope is but they say like a score, like whatever it was, like they would say, like, they was just disregarding, what this preacher was saying. But he was saying some real stuff, even though, he a Christian, he kicking the wrong doctrine or whatever. But he was saying some real stuff about, the horoscope. But like they would rather, deal with, the deceits. And that's us especially, as the children of Israel today, we would rather hear, the deceits, the stuff that's off versus the truth. But I'll yield with that.
Con.
I had a precept to add to that. If you'll go to 2 Timothy chapter 4, verse 3.
Con. It's the book of 2 Timothy chapter 4, starting verse 3. For the time will come when they will not endure sound doctrine, but after their own lusts shall they heap to themselves teachers, having itching ears.
All that go together so good. That's beautiful, because just like the brother just brought that scripture out, they want to believe them lies. And hey, here you go. You can have these teachers. He'll give us over to a reprobated mind. And so we just believe a lie.
Oh, 100%. Scripture said, just because you trusted in vanity. That's what we should all be doing right now. Is trying to raise up our people to where they're able to. It's just because they may be at a lower state, don't mean that they won't become like you are or greater. Even though they may be, dealing with the witchcraft, the sorcery, the tarot cards, the fortune teller, they got their own medium that they go and they listen to, and the medium tells them they're gonna prosper and everything's gonna be okay, and that job that they wanted is going to come to them. It doesn't mean that you can't reach it.
Good point, Art. Good point. Because we always got to remember where we were before. We always got to remember that. But yeah, good precepts, brothers. Anybody got any other points they want to bring up? Any comments? Any sisters want to comment or say anything?
I just want to say, great lesson. That was very opening. And the Happy Halloween article was hilarious, to say the least. And the water brothers for bringing out those precepts that often those were we in the spirit today. That's all I'm saying.
All praises. Well, if nobody else got anything, Brother Aaron, you can close it out.
Like it was said before, definitely a beautiful lesson. And we'll close it out with number 6. Yahweh bless thee and keep thee. Yahweh make his face shine upon thee and be gracious unto thee. Yahweh lift up his countenance upon thee and give thee peace. And they shall put my name upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them. And with that, I'll say shalom.
Shalom, family.
Shalom, family.